Hello and welcome to this edition of Talking Subs, hosted by Keep Northern Ireland Beautiful. In this episode, we're going to be looking at the most recent single-use plastics consultation and some of the outworkings of that. We're also going to be looking at some of Keep Northern Ireland Beautiful's own work on this issue of single-use plastics and how it relates to local government. And to go through this, we have Keith Patterson from the organisation RAP. Keith, you are very welcome to this episode of Talking Subs.
Right, nice to be here. Thanks, David.
Okay, Keith, some people may not be aware who may be watching this, but there was a recent consultation out from the Department of Agriculture, Environment and Rural Affairs on single-use plastics. Could you just walk us through what they were consulting on and some of the issues that they were looking to get responses on?
Plastic is a problem. Plastic is a problem in the environment and as litter. As useful as it is as a packaging material and how useful it is to us in our everyday lives, it's a problem when it ends up in the wrong place. So Keep Northern Ireland Beautiful's litter surveys found that 71% of litter is plastic or contains some kind of plastic. And the executive has made a commitment in its New Decade, New Approach to tackle plastic pollution. So this consultation is really part of that. So the consultation, it's got quite a long title. It's the Consultation for the Reduction of Single-Use Plastic Beverage Cups and Food Containers. It's really just looking at those two specific materials. And those are materials that are ending up, or packaging that is ending up as litter. And the Keep Northern Ireland Beautiful is finding that in its survey. So that's the focus of the consultation. The consultation actually closed in January this year. So the responses to that consultation, and there are quite a few, are being analysed by the department, and they will publish their responses to that consultation in due course.
Keith, you've outlined some of the research that's been going on there. You've mentioned some of the research from Keep Northern Ireland Beautiful as well. And I know RAP always looks very closely at many of these issues too. I just wonder, in terms of the high predominance of single-use plastics turning up in litter and what we're finding in waste, do you think that this problem is getting worse, or do you think that, do you think it is growing in prominence in the debate on this?
I think there's plastic is a relatively new invention, just in the last 100 years or so, plastic, all the plastic packaging that we have at the minute, it sort of it doesn't break down very quickly. So what you're really looking for is plastic packaging that is recyclable, and we don't always have that at the minute. And there are some challenges around recycling some of these items that have plastic in them. So let's look at one in particular. If you look at the consultation, it was looking at plastic beverage cups. Those tend to be a mix of paper with a plastic lining. Some of them are paper with a bioplastic or biopolymer lining, but it's still plastic. So when that ends up in the environment, then that plastic ends up as litter in the environment. Because they are two materials together, they're challenging to recycle and get that infrastructure in place to take it back. So really the ideal solution is to encourage people to look at alternatives, to look at reuse models, to bring their reusable coffee cup, and to look at how we might prevent that packaging need to be created and ending up as litter in the environment.
Yeah, and you've hit upon something really important there. So obviously we're talking a wee bit about the prevalence of this and the environmental impact of that as well. Keith, for local governments, okay, who have to deal with the vast bulk of waste in certainly in Northern Ireland anyway, they have to deal with it. They're required to actually take care of this. I mean, what do you think what do you think the implications are there for local government in terms of tackling this issue?
Well, local government has to deal with it one way or another. So whether that's just from consumers raising it as a concern and being concerned about plastic and wanting to see their local council take action, or picking it up as waste in litter bins, or street cleansing, picking it up off the street or from out of the physical environment. It is a problem for local government, but local government also has this opportunity to demonstrate leadership in this sort of area by taking small actions themselves. So maybe using water refill stations rather than disposable cups, encouraging their staff or their retail outlets to accept or to bring reusable coffee cups. Other initiatives wider than that, which actually look at non-plastic alternatives. So I know one of the councils to your Tackling Plastics pledge has signed up for promoting a real nappy scheme. So there are different initiatives that councils can take part in and can promote, which actually move us away to non-plastic alternatives.
Yeah, and there is, I mean, you've mentioned there about some of the campaigns that are already taking place, and we'll be speaking to some councillors who are outlining some of the things going on in their own areas too. Keith, I just wanted to ask you a wee bit about, obviously, we through the consultation, okay, and you mentioned some of the issues that they are looking at and consulting upon. In terms of the research that you're seeing, and in terms of the research that you're finding out there, how prominent do you think this issue is in the waste debate, and also, in terms of, where we're going in terms of tackling, because all this is related into basically fights against, either it's climate change or how we do things a bit differently?
I mean, one of the more telling things that we found through the UK Plastics Pact research is that over 80% of people surveyed who were concerned said that they realized that there was potential for them to do more. So how do we facilitate that doing more? How do we set up systems where reuse is commonplace, or where consumers are nudged into taking the right action? So you remember back in 2013, the department in Northern Ireland introduced a plastic bag levy. So that's a bit of a nudge, a financial nudge, if you like, to get people to remember to bring a reusable bag with them, rather than constantly taking single-use plastic bags, which were then not always ending up being recycled. Again, because, as I was saying earlier, some of the infrastructure around taking those back and getting those recycled didn't yet exist.
Keith, I've just got one final question for you on this. You were mentioning there about some of the research, about 71% of plastic being found in our litter, but then you also are juxtaposing that with 80% of people who are being surveyed recognizing that they want to do more from your own research. I just wonder, in terms of some of the policy innovations that we've seen, how much appetite have you seen for actually doing things a bit differently, for us all kind of, doing our bit and actually, getting involved and working with, bodies like local government, because governments can only obviously do so much. Obviously, they need the people and population to work with them. How much have you seen of that?
So I do think the UK governments are sort of they're working in tune with one another, and in terms of what the policies that are being proposed. So what you're seeing in Northern Ireland in terms of this consultation to reduce the consumption of single-use beverage cups and food containers is being mirrored in sort of England, Scotland, and Wales as well. So you're starting to see things like disposable plastic cutlery being banned in each of the nations. So that's a policy intervention, if you like. So how does that filter down to local governments and to consumers and the actions that they want to take and they can take? So I think that at the highest level, those policy interventions are there and are coming. I think there is in some cases, there needs to be alternatives. So one, for example, and my colleague Helen would be able to talk about this as part of the UK Plastics Pact, is you're starting to see refill schemes coming into some of the sort of major supermarkets here. Now that requires quite a big investment in logistics changes for those retailers, but you're starting to see those sorts of responses coming. So this requires investment, it requires innovation, and it isn't all going to happen overnight, but I'm really positive about the changes that are happening there, and the role that we as consumers and as local government as well can play in sort of leading that charge.
That is a really optimistic note to leave it on, Keith. There are a lot of opportunities out there. Keith, we really appreciate you coming in, just giving us an overview about where things are from a kind of a policy standpoint, and also some of the wider research that's actually out there kind of informing these debates as well. So you've been listening to Keith Patterson from WRAP. That's all we have time for on this episode of Talking Subs. We'll be back with a future episode. So thank you very much for watching.